Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Your gut affects everything, even your mood. So Ollie created 2 brand new products to take care of your insides. Ollie Big 10 Probiotic has 10 strains of probiotics, their most ever, to support a healthy gut microbiome, immune system, and stress response. And Ollie Super Good Superfoods delivers 15 superfoods in tasty gummy form. Find them at Ollie.com and exclusively at Walmart.
Ollie!
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome. We're back on the Roger Stone Show. We're talking about last week's hearing of the U.S. House Task Force on declassification of the documents pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Well, one of the notable and most compelling witnesses was Douglas Horne, former senior analyst for the Kennedy Assassination Records Review Board, who claimed yet again that he believed that JFK was shot multiple times in the head with skull x-rays showing unambiguous and clear evidence of 2 headshots fired from in front of the president. It's interesting that the Warren Commission was never actually given the autopsy photos. They were given artists' renderings of the autopsy photos. The man who helped arrange for Douglas Horne to appear as a witness is joining us now, Tyler Nixon. Tyler Nixon is an attorney, an activist, has represented me personally. He is also a keen and accomplished researcher on the Kennedy assassination. He specifically represents Abraham Bolden, the first African-American civil Secret Service agent who testified most compellingly last week, but who, frankly, has not been treated well by his government. Joe Biden pardoned Bolden for trumped-up charges that were filed against him in order to silence and discredit him about his view of what happened on November 22nd, 1963. But that turns out to be a cynical ploy for votes, and there was really none of the benefits that this gentleman, Mr. Bolden, deserves is he going to get, unless, of course, President Trump decides to take action. Anyway, Tyler Nixon, thanks for joining us in the Roger Stone Show.
Roger, it's great to be with you, as always. I appreciate your having me on.
I think this is a great opportunity for you to tell the story of Abraham Bolden, even though last week's hearing was televised and was certainly accessible online. Many don't know the story of this bold American and how his government has mistreated him. So I'm going to lay back here a little bit and tell us about Abraham Bolden.
Sure, and for those who are watching the hearing, unfortunately, it's like this man has waited 62 years to tell his story, and we had an audio problem with the initial his initial statement. So if anyone who didn't catch his audio opening can go back, and they've reposted, they fixed the audio, and it sounds great. But Abraham Bolden is really an American hero in many ways. I mean, He's the first African-American Secret Service agent ever to serve on presidential protection, which he was chosen for personally by President Kennedy in April of 1961, when, as fate would have it, he joined the Secret Service in October of 60 and encountered, we talk about racism today. I mean, people have no clue when they throw around the term racist today what it was like for someone like Abraham Bolden to go into an all-white Secret Service. Filled with Southerners in the early 1960s. I mean, it was serious racism. It was the sort of lynch mob kind of racism. And so Abraham meets President Kennedy by fate because they stuck him in a washroom. He was a full Secret Service agent. He had been an Illinois state trooper done undercover work, was the first black detective on the Illinois State Police Investigative Division. It was the first black Pinkerton detective. So he had a lot of experience doing undercover work, investigations as a law enforcement officer. So he joins the Secret Service. President Kennedy comes to town April of 1961. They assign him to guard a washroom in the basement of the McCormick's place rather than up in the ballroom. One extra eagle-eyed Secret Service agent protecting the president's life. They thought it'd be funny to put a black agent down and make him guard bathroom, basically. Well, I guess they didn't realize that Kennedy, he may be the leader of the free world, but he also is a human being. So as soon as the limousine pulls up, the motorcade pulls up with Mayor Daley and the whole retinue, Kennedy has to use the washroom. He wants to, relieve himself or whatever, freshen up before he takes the stage to the 2000 Cook County Democrat stalwarts who helped him get elected. And he runs into Abraham Bolden, and he asks, "Are you one of Mayor Daley's finest?" And he says, "No, sir, I'm a Secret Service agent." And Kennedy asked, I believe, whoever the head of the detail was at that time, he asked his name. He said, his name is Abraham Bolden. He said, "Mr. Bolden, has there ever been a black Secret Service agent that served on the White House detail?" And he said, "Not that I know of, Mr. President." And he said, "Would you like to be the first?" And he said, "Yes, sir, Mr. President." So 6 weeks later, he walked into history on June 5th, 1961, as the first agent ever to guard a president. And what he walked into was a total buzzsaw of racism, laxity, drinking, antipathy, if not outright hostility towards Kennedy. It was a mess. It really was. When he arrived, he was able to, because he was in such close proximity to President Kennedy. Kennedy treated everybody equally, and he gave him very good treatment, let's just say. He called him the Jackie Robinson of the Secret Service. He introduced him that way to everybody from Pierre Salinger to his brother to visiting dignitaries like, I think Senator Goldwater was up there. And, President Kennedy, because, again, the close proximity, he would frequently stop and chat Abe up and ask him what he thought of racism in America. And what this impressed upon Abraham was that what a human and decent and good man Kennedy was deep down. I mean, obviously he was wealthy, he was privileged, but he really did care about people, and he really did try to connect with people individually. Now, by contrast, you have Lyndon Johnson, the vice president, who is I'll recount one of Abraham's stories from that same month. It was the end of the month, June 29th, 1961. It was in the evening time, and the Secret Service agents had, because of their sort of laxity, they would just, if they thought the family had gone up to the quarters or Kennedy had gone up to the personal quarters, they would just go out and drink and have dinner, and they'd leave one guy on duty. Well, Abraham Bolden was the guy left on duty. Well, up rolls a big black limousine, and out comes Lyndon Johnson, slams the limousine door, and literally beelines for the Oval Office where Bobby Kennedy and Jack Kennedy were, having their evening conference, whatever, talking about the day. And Johnson goes in and launches into a tirade, and I mean, expletives not deleted, let's just say. I mean, it was vulgarity, it was threats, and it was, I can't say it on the air because we're obviously on a broadcast station, but it was essentially, "You better quit effing with me about this GD Cotton." And that's what Abraham remembers him saying. And, he didn't have any context for what he heard, but what he heard was so threatening to President Kennedy in this fulminating tirade against Jack and Bobby Kennedy that Abraham actually reported it to his shift supervisor as a security threat to the president. So, there you have it. That's Lyndon Johnson.
This, of course, would have been at a time that Johnson's involvement in cotton contracts with Billy Sol Estes would have been under review. So it would not be unfair to speculate that perhaps that's if they were talking about Robert Kennedy. By November 22nd, 1963, the Attorney General had begun telling people that Johnson would be dropped from the 64 ticket and would be facing a criminal prosecution. It's interesting that Evelyn Lincoln, the President Kennedy's personal secretary, wrote on the plane and later in a formal letter when asked to list those she suspected were involved in the murder of her beloved boss. First on the list was good old LBJ. In any event, I don't want to lose the thread here of Abraham Bolden. We got about 2 minutes before we have to go to the break, so let's continue with Abraham Bolden's story.
Sure. Bolden encounters, as I said, deep racism, very virulent racism, using the N-word on him constantly. He was the only guy in the whole outfit, and there were racist Southerners on the White House detail, and unfortunately no one would stand up for it. He stood up for himself. I mean, he was not one to take that lightly. So he encountered that, and he became disillusioned. He was offered by President Kennedy to stay permanently on the White House detail, and he realized that he couldn't live with it. He could not constantly 24 hours a day be exposed to that kind of just openly racist attitudes. And President Kennedy, as you know, he can only do so much. As I've said, he could issue an executive order to integrate the federal workforce, but he can't make men stop hating, for racial reasons. And so Abraham goes back to Chicago, and while he was also in the White House, he witnessed a lot of drinking, laxity, misconduct. I mean, just a whole litany of regulatory violations for the Secret Service conduct that put the president's life at risk at times. I mean, he said that when they would go out for dinner, he was the only Secret Service agent when Johnson came in the White House at that time. Now they had obviously the uniform service, but he was concerned about this. He reported this to U.E. Bauman, who was the chief of the Secret Service, but U.E. Bauman was leaving almost at the same time as Abe was leaving the White House in summer of '61, and James Rowley would be the new chief of the Secret Service. He was the head of the White House detail. So Abe's reports of the drinking, the laxity, the racism, and all this, Rowley oversaw that. So when he took over the Secret Service, there was nothing going to be done about that. So Abe returns to Chicago. He begins doing anti-counterfeiting operations. He does undercover work. He's considered the top agent in Chicago by the head of the acting special agent in charge of the Chicago office, and he is commended twice at least for major busts that he did. So in the lead up to the assassination in fall of '63, they had threats. In March '63, there were threats against President Kennedy involving potentially what they called Puerto Rican gunmen. And you can check out our friend Vince Palomaro's book, The Plot to Kill President Kennedy in Chicago.
Tyler, we got to go to a quick break. We'll be coming right back with lawyer Tyler Nixon, the continued story of Secret Service agent Abraham Bolden.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Chronic spontaneous urticaria, or chronic hives with no known cause. It's so unpredictable. It's like playing pinball. Itchy, red bumps start on my arm, then my back. Sometimes my legs. Hives come out of nowhere. And it comes and goes. But I just found out about a treatment option at treatmyhives.com. Take that, chronic hives. Learn more at treatmyhives.com.
Choosing a bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drink that's all flavor and just 100 calories? Easy. Choosing between creamy vanilla, double chocolate, and sea salt caramel flavors? A little harder. Try the delicious new Starbucks Frappuccino light drinks. Look for them wherever you buy groceries. Start with Starbucks coffee.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back with attorney Tyler Nixon. Tyler, we have about 8 minutes left. We were talking about the first African-American assigned to a Secret Service Presidential Protection Detail, Abraham Bolden. Let's get to the worst part of this. Bolden would be essentially framed for crimes he did not commit in order to silence him. Tyler, lay it out for us.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Roger. And I want to thank you, by the way, on behalf of Douglas Horn, who appeared before the Representative Luna's task force. You were instrumental in making that happen. I believe you're instrumental in Abraham Bolden's appearance. And Representative Luna, I think, did an excellent job, and she has great sympathy for Abe. But it's all due to you, Roger, and I must thank you on behalf of Mr. Bolden and Douglas Horn. So, that being said, yes, the Abraham Bolden has been treated horribly by this government. I mean, I went through your trial with you, Roger, and I experienced firsthand, minute by minute, blow by blow, the lawfare, the biased judge, the partisan prosecutors, who were basically working from contrived charges, completely, sort of hostile witnesses and hostile jury. These are sort of the elements of lawfare. And in your case, I mean, and President Trump has faced the same thing. It's the exact same sort of, there's only so many ways to falsely prosecute someone, but you have to have certain elements rigged in your favor. And this is exactly what they did. Abraham Bolden, after President Kennedy was assassinated, was of course horrified because he had been trying to blow the whistle within the Secret Service about the president's protection being subpar. He knew about, the agents were out drinking. They would be drunk on duty, and they would abandon their posts. It was frighteningly frightening if it weren't, it was comical in some ways, some of the stories he's told about how they would, they literally handed him, I believe, a Thompson submachine gun that he had never been trained on before, and just said, well, just look like you know how to handle it, when he was in the White House detail initially in like the first week. This is the kind of, this is how seriously they took the security of the president. So, Bolden was, he was not one to keep his mouth shut in terms of when he saw misconduct, he would point it out. He was straight as an arrow. He could have been he was a classic, concert pianist. He could play jazz. He also was a trumpeter. He had a huge, successful career in front of him as a musician if he wanted it. But instead he chose to become a law enforcement officer because he had seen it crime tear up his hometown of East St. Louis, Missouri, or excuse me, East St. Louis, Illinois. And so he went into to serve justice. And when President Kennedy was assassinated, he knew that the agents had contributed to it. Even before the reports came out about the 9 Secret Service agents out of I think 16 on Kennedy's detail who were out to the early hours of the morning in Fort Worth, the morning of the assassination. So you're talking within up as close as 7 hours of the assassination. These agents were out drinking Everclear at a speakeasy, essentially, in Fort Worth at the morning of the assassination. Bolden knew about this. He knew about. He also knew about antipathy, statements of antipathy towards Kennedy in the Secret Service. Things like, they call him an N lover, and I wouldn't step out and protect this guy.
Tyler, we got 3 minutes. Let's get to his charges.
Okay, got it. So he gets arrested, charged with solicitation of a bribe. He gets flown back from D.C. on a subterfuge. 2 counterfeiters, one of whom he had arrested twice in the previous year, another a mob-connected counterfeit ringleader. Basically, the charge was that Bolden tried to solicit a bribe using one counterfeiter that he had arrested twice, a black guy, to this mob-connected counterfeiter for $50,000 for the investigative file. Now, this is the charge was, it's on its face ludicrous. And if you look, and I've been through the case, it's even more ludicrous, the evidence they tried to use against him. There is not a single piece of evidence. Now, in the Secret Service, they do undercover work, just any law enforcement agency federally, when they do undercover work, when they have the element of surprise, they will use it. So the claim is that this guy, Spagnoli, who is the mob-connected counterfeiter, thought he was being set up by Bolden or by the Secret Service, so he sought, in the goodness of his heart, to call the head of the Secret Service, Maurice Martineau, in Chicago, and report this. Now, they could have set Bolden up to, say, walk through to the end of a bribe scheme, but they didn't. They claim that they made it so he would overhear it and then call it off. In other words, everything, the fix was in. This man was railroaded right to the end. He was put through 2 federal trials, full criminal trials, in less than 5 weeks in Chicago. The judge was a deeply hostile, biased judge, similar to Amy Berman Jackson in your case. This judge ruled against him repeatedly. Here's the crazy part. The main witness against him, this mob-connected counterfeiter, goes on trial 4 months after Bolden. Bolden's convicted after a second trial, an all-white jury. This counterfeiter admits on the stand, on his own testimony in his own trial, that he perjured himself in Bolden's case. And not only did he do that, he did it suborned by the U.S. attorney, the assistant U.S. attorney who was prosecuting Bolden.
So Bolden is convicted. His career is ruined. You and many others recognize the injustice. I began appealing to President Trump to pardon him in his first term. Unfortunately, did not do so. Joe Biden ended up pardoning him, but that pardon does not get Bolden justice. You have 1 minute to tell us why.
Well, what good is a pardon if he's already served all the punishment? Abraham submitted righteous claims under the Federal Tort Claims Act to the Secret Service for compensation. I mean, this man life was destroyed. He has lived as a felon for the last 60 years. They flatly denied him. And it was the most cynical. I'm going to tell you what, this agency is unreformed, and it's ironic that this flat denial came 10 days before President Trump was almost assassinated in Butler, Pennsylvania. So President Trump's got a real problem with holdovers from the Biden-Cheadle era in the Secret Service, and I hope he will give justice to Mr. Bolden by authorizing his compensation, restoring him as a Secret Service agent, and maybe naming the training center in D.C. after Abraham Bolden, who's a hero, American hero.
There we have it. Thanks for joining us on The Roger Stone Show.
Thanks for listening to The Roger Stone Show. You can hear The Roger Stone Show Sunday afternoons at 3. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?